this is really interesting. I think this is coming out in the next issue of Blue Water. These are blue marlin. We don't get a huge number of blue marlin recapture. They're a pretty low recapture rate. I think there's a number of factors that come into play. Tags fall out, tags aren't noticed, fish disperse really quickly. I think that's what happens with blue marlin. Blue marlin really do disperse and they really are migratory and move over big distances. But these three have been quite recent recaptures of blue marlin. And you see that this is where they've been tagged, and the three of them were recaptured in this general area up off Irian Jaya, which is part of Indonesia, by what they call artisanal fishermen or village fishermen fishing with hand lines, but on anchored fads that have been scattered right throughout this area. There's thousands, tens of thousands of these big anchored fads, the big steel drums float, and they're put out by tuna fishing companies to purse seine for skipjack tuna in particular, and small yellowfin tuna. It's a huge industry right throughout that area. And in doing so, they actually give these small sort of catamaran boats to local fishermen right through this area, and they allow them to hand line for, they actually target big yellowfin, but they've been catching blue marlin and finding the tags and sending the tags back. The other really interesting thing is that this one here, this recapture, tagged in lay, off lay, this fish was at liberty for 7 years. So it's a record on the program for a blue marlin. Not a record for all species, but getting up there. When that fish was tagged, it was estimated at 80 kilograms. When it was recaptured, it actually only weighed, the reported weight was 140 kilograms headed and gutted. So we think that might make it about 170, 180 kilos. So you think that's not a big growth rate for blue marlin. Yeah, from 82. But we think that it almost certainly was a male fish, because males actually, that is the maximum size that males reach. Females, all of the big black and blue marlin over 180 kilos will be females, but under that they'll be half and half. So, but we didn't get the sex of that fish, unfortunately, so we don't know. So that, these are sort of, the other really important point here is that these are very recent recaptures. These are in the last 12 months. So there's some new information from the tagging program that's been around for so long, where 10 years ago people were saying, oh, we know everything about that we're going to learn from this program. So we're still learning every day. I'll move on to pop-up satellite tagging. Here's a picture of the tag, and Jamie's got a tag here. I don't think I'll hand it around the audience, because if you press on the pressure sensor of this, you'll set it off. And this is the famous pop-up satellite tag that are manufactured by a company in the United States called Wildlife Computers. Very sophisticated computer, actually. It costs $3,500 each to purchase, and then it costs, if it comes to the surface and transmits, it costs another $500 to the satellite company to get the data back. So $4,000. And we hope they work, of course. Now, we were lucky enough, we'll go to the tiger tagging program in a minute, but we've had a lot of these tags now used in Australian game fish, mostly off the east coast, but also off New Guinea and Vanuatu. Most of them have come from a private research institute in the United States, free of charge to us, paid for by a philanthropist, meaning a very rich person who wanted to put money into research. Through a private research institute over there, and he'd been a game fisherman in the past, and he wanted to put money back in, so he's paid for, we've had, I think, something like 150 of these tags used in Australian waters. So that's great. Basically, they're a little mini computer. They store data, they don't transmit data all the time. You can get tags that you can attach to shark fins, dorsal fins, and they also have been attaching those to the tails of striped marlin off New Zealand that do give you a position. When the tag comes up on the dorsal fin, the satellite picks it up and says that fish is at that position, but that's all the information you get from that tag, which is pretty good though, because you get the track if the fish comes to the surface often enough and if it stays up for long enough. These tags aren't designed to do that. When they're on the fish, they turn on when they get wet or when they go down 30 metres, and they start recording every 30 seconds inside the tag, the depth, temperature, and every day they do a light curve. They've got a light meter, a light sensitive window, a light sensor that will give you a light curve. So they're detecting, the idea of that is to detect the time of sunrise and the time of sunset on any given day if the fish is near the surface. So you won't get that every day, but you'll get it some days. The idea is that this tag will stay on the fish for months, even a year if you're lucky enough. I mean, the tag will store data for a year, but the big problem we've had is keeping these bloody tags on fish, even though we're sticking them in a long way. You can see the length of the needle on this tag pole. They're going about that far. They're still coming out of fish all the time. It happens all over the world. It's just one of those things that's frustrating because these tags have a little alarm clock in them, and you can set them to be on the fish for a few days if you want to, or months, as I said, but they usually don't last more than a couple of months on a fish. If they stay on for 6 months, it's a real bonus, and some have stayed on for that length of time. So one of the disadvantages is you're only getting fairly short-term information on movements, but you're getting a real lot of information on their vertical movements and hopefully their horizontal movements as well. The recapture rate of marlin on the normal tagging program is about 1%. So about 1 in 100 of marlin that are tagged, you can expect to hear from again, from the plastic tags. We know that more fish get recaptured that we don't hear about. That's an issue to do with reporting rate. We know that the tags fall out of fish, like I said, and they don't get noticed either. There's all sorts of reasons why that recapture rate is 1%. There have been recapture rates as high as 6 or 7% on marlin when they're concentrated in an area where they're being fished fairly heavily. So we don't think it's a mortality problem. We think it's just these other factors that are related to whether the tag you hear from the tag. When you use one of these, it's pretty well guaranteed that you'll hear from it again. That's the beauty of it. You know when it was tagged, and you know where and when it pops up on the surface. You don't go out and get this tag again, by the way, it's expendable. You don't expect to get it back. It sits up on the surface, and just once this little electrode here is dry, it starts transmitting all of the data in it up to a satellite. And back in the lab, if I've got the number of the tag and I'm the owner of the tag, I get the data from the satellite company. Now, what does happen though occasionally is these tags do wash up on the shore and they do get found, and they've got a little message on them saying there's a reward of $100. And we've had a lot of these back from black marlin that have been washed up along the east coast of Australia. And we've had 6 tiger sharks tagged, and 2 of these have been washed up again. The great thing when they are washed up and you get them back is you get all of the data out of them every 30 seconds. Whereas when they come up, the problem with the electronics and the amount of data that they can send is that if they're just transmitting the data, you only get a summary, like an average depth and an average temperature over each day. So you're not getting as fine scale information as you do if you get the tag back.